Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and today we're going to be taking a look at the SUQQU summer collection. Now, I already have part one of this up. I'll leave that linked down below in the description box. And in part one, we looked at the palette in 125. And we also looked at the blush in 140, which is this one. So I've got some looks, some demos, and comparisons with those here. I will be swatching them again so you can see them next to the other shades here. But those two items were given to me in PR from SUQQU, and everything else I purchased myself, and we have the full collection. So let's go ahead and get started. We're starting off with just a little note about the packaging here. So traditionally, our SUQQU packaging is black. This time for the summer collection, you can see it's kind of this iridescent white. So there's a little bit of like kind of a greenish reflect there. And this particular collection is inspired by gemstones and opalescent, appearances of things. So we actually have a couple duochrome eyeshadows, one in each of the two eyeshadow palettes, which makes this launch very, very special in my opinion. In addition, we have new lipsticks. So this is a brand new formula as well. This is the first time SUQQU has done this formula. You can see they are in cute little compact metal packaging. They are still 3.4 grams of product. So although it looks smaller, it's actually a full-size lipstick. And you can see we've got this beautiful marbling here. There is a little bit of shimmer in these lipsticks. So let's go ahead and start off with swatching the lipsticks. This one here is shade number 101. And you can see when I put this up close, you can see a little bit of that shimmer. So the shimmer is coming from kind of that like yellowish gold that is swirled throughout. We're going to do this one on my hand. So this is one sheer layer, and you can see it doesn't look like super glittery or anything like that, but there is a little bit of glitter in there. So this is going to be a warm nude brown. You've got a little bit of orange mixed with, it's mostly like the sienna brown Crayola Gran. It's that, but much softer in pigmentation level. So, but it's got that same level of like red and orange mixed into the brown. This one is shade 102. So these are called the Marble Color Lipstick. They are a satin lipstick. It's currently the only satin lipstick that SUQQU has. And I don't know, I haven't heard if they are going to be exploring this line in the future, but I feel like this formula is kind of like a teaser of what's to come. So this is shade 102, and this is going to be more of a, it's a soft brick red. So you've got some of those brick tones making it a little bit warmer. The shimmer in this one is actually going to be more silver. You can see that's kind of the swirl in here is kind of like a lavender with a little bit of silver shimmer. And so that helps cool this off. But you can see overall both shades run a little bit warm. So before we move on to other items, let's go ahead and look at the lip swatches of those, and we'll talk about the details of this formula. So as I mentioned before, the lipsticks come in metal packaging, and they do look like they are a little bit smaller. It's a more compact size. There's less extra space taken up with this packaging. We have 3.4 grams of product. Now, other SUQQU lipsticks range from 3.7 grams to 4 grams, depending on the formula. So these are a little bit smaller than your traditional SUQQU lipstick. However, they are larger than others that we commonly see here in the US in the market, such as Chantecaille Lip Cheeks, which are actually only 2.5 grams of product. The Sisley Phyto Rouge lipsticks, those are actually the exact same size, 3.4 grams, but the Phyto Shine lipsticks from them are 3 grams, and Armani Lip Powers are 3.1. So you can see we're still in the ballpark of our regular lipstick sizes. It's actually still a little bit more generous than some other brands. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be a satin formula. It does have shimmer in here. The shade 101 has a little bit of golden shimmer. Shade 102 has a little bit of a silver shimmer. And honestly, you're not really going to notice that on the lips. You don't look at the lips and see any glitter or sparkle, but it adds in a little bit of light reflection. However, if you go to wipe off the lipstick, you'll see a little bit of those glitter particles left on the lips. However, it's not a lot. So just something to note there. So as with all SUQQU products, these are made in Japan. The formula is very comfortable on the lips, and I think it's actually really nice. It's medium to full coverage with, I would say it's like a medium to full coverage lip product. And to get full coverage from it, you want 2 layers of the product. Personally, I think this particular formula looks best with 1 to 2 very thin layers. Then you're optimizing the shine, and yet you don't have a lot of product on your lip either, and it stays very comfortable. So this is going to give you average wear time of a traditional satin lipstick of about 3 to 4 hours with regular wear, eating and drinking and so forth. So this is not something that's really going to leave a stain on your lips. So it's not a long wearing lipstick formula. Overall, I have to say I'm really excited to see these, and I hope that SUQQU is considering adding a new line of satin lipsticks. And so I'm crossing my fingers. Maybe that's something that will pop up in the fall. So let's go ahead and move on to the eyeshadow palettes. Now, for comparison's sake, we're going to start off with the 125 palette, which again, I talked about in the other video. This is our topper shade, and you can see this is going to be a soft peach. It's actually very hard to see on the skin. It's just a little bit of scattered shimmer followed by this matte orange. And I really like that orange because it's a little bit of a nude orange. It's not too pumpkin. It's a little bit subdued. And then this third shade here, this is our duochrome. And you can see we have a green to almost like a burgundy brown. It's kind of like the rich color of like the bark of a redwood tree. And then the green reminds me of like the bright green of the spring leaves when the tree is, you know, just getting the first leaves in the springtime. So that's what that makes me think of. Really beautiful shift there. And then we have a deeper toned cool brown. And again, that's going to be another matte. I have to say I love this palette. I have been reaching for it a lot since I received it, and it's definitely, in my opinion, one of the best SUQQU palettes and one of the best eyeshadow palettes that I have. So I really, really love this. So I really couldn't wait to see 126 because I love purples, and I wasn't really sure how I'd feel about kind of these like more pink rosier tones, but SUQQU has a way of making them so that they don't really give you that red eye appearance. And yeah, I'd have to say that they were successful again. So here's our shimmer topper. This is really more of a champagne. You don't really see too much color from that. It's pretty neutral, but there is a little bit of a kind of like a soft cool tone pink shimmer in there. And then for this shade here, this is a nice matte, soft, dusty mauve. And I have to say, I really like this shade. It looks great. There's a great balance of red and blue in here. So I think it's, you know, it works really well. I could wear that as a one and done and be happy with it. And then this is our duochrome. I mean, look at that. Do you see the color shift? So it's a little harder to see it in camera than in person. But you can see you kind of get this bright, vivid violet when the light hits it a certain way. And then you also get kind of this bluer tone, like lilac shade. Like think of a fresh lilac flower, that tone. And yeah, I just think is stunning. Now between this duochrome and the one in the 125 palette, I have to say that this one is more strongly pigmented from the start. You can really get a more soft, neutral look with the 125. This, you know, you can still get a nice, soft, delicate look and so forth with it. However, one swipe of the eyeshadow brush on that particular shade gives you fuller coverage than you would get from the 125 palette. And then last up, we have this deeper mauve matte shade. You can see this actually has a little bit of a purple based burgundy tone to it. And this overall, this palette is going to run cool. So let's take a look at eye swatches for both of these palettes and then today's eye look so you can see these on the eye. Again, I have some additional looks with the 125 palette in the other video. So while we're talking about these, you know, just something to note, SUQQU palettes are refillable. So they do have the holes on the back if you wanted to pop these out or rearrange the shades with other palettes and so forth. So, you know, it does have the special limited edition white packaging. So it's definitely something to hold on to and keep around. So I just thought that was worth noting. Now that being said, although the palettes are refillable, that's allowing you to move around the shades. I have never seen any of the actual single pans sold individually. So just something to note though. I think that's great. Anytime there's different packaging, that it is something that you can keep and savor in the long run, even when those shadows are old or used up. So moving on to specs on this palette, as with all SUQQU items, it is made in Japan. We have a 1-year shelf life on these, and we have 6.2 grams of product. I have to say, I love SUQQU shadows because they are so easy to blend. They go on beautifully with brush or applicator or fingers, and I just think they're really great. So these palettes do come with applicators. So you have one dual-ended brush with this, as well as a dual-ended foam tip applicator. So if you want to get maximum pigmentation level from these shadows, definitely take a look at either a finger application or a foam tip applicator. But as you can see with the brushes, you are still getting, I'd say it's like 80 to 90% the same level of pigmentation as with the fingers with these particular palettes. And I think that's really great. These blend out easily, so you can easily kind of not only just blend, but if you want to make it softer and have a very sheer look, works very well with the formulas here. And they hold up all day without creasing, whether I use a primer or not. And I just think they are fantastic. So if you're familiar with my channel, you'll know that SUQQU is one of my very favorite makeup brands, if not my top makeup brand, because their formulas are incredible. The lasting, level on them is amazing. Quality is always consistent. And I have to say, I was so happy with these. There's something about SUQQU products that, they look beautiful in the pictures, but then when you see them in person, there's like a magical quality with them. And I feel like the duochrome shades is what really makes these palettes. So all of the other shades in both the 125 and the 126 palette, those are shades you can see again in other palettes, either from SUQQU or other brands. There's nothing really unique about those shades. What is unique are those duochrome shades. And I discussed the 125 duochrome in the other video and how it differs from other sort of red-green duochromes. This one in particular, I think the one here in the 126, that brighter pink to the softer like blue-based lavender, I think it just gives you a really beautiful look. It actually reminds me of like, some of those lighter colored like bearded irises and so forth. And I just think it's such a beautiful shade. So I have seen lots of, lavender duochromes and so forth. I just don't have any quite like this. So, all right, so before we delve into some other palettes, this one here, this is a Cleona shadow in Turret. And this is a duochrome. I feel like a lot of the indie brands make some great duochrome shades, but a lot of times you see even more color shift than what you're getting with the SUQQU. The SUQQU is going to be a bit more subtle. So just something to note. This is my closest match though to the shade in the SUQQU palette. So you can see there's definitely some differences there. This has more of a color shift. It actually has some green in the color shift and so forth as well. It's a little bit more pigmented, but it's a beautiful shade also. This is Sydney Grace Mythical. So I just wanted to compare this. This isn't really a duochrome, but this shade is just, it kind of gets a little bit of that blue-based lavender that it flips to. However, this has a little bit more blue in it. It's a little bit more periwinkle. And again, you don't get any sort of color shift there. I really feel like these color shifts and the way the light hits it, how it's a little bit more of a subtle color shift than your traditional duochromes and multi-chrome shadows. That's what I feel is what's making these really special, because it adds a level of sophistication. You've got the fun, but you've got the sophistication and the subtlety that you want in there as well. This is the Tom Ford Quad in Violet Satiné. And so this is the creme formula that came out recently. We're going to put this one vertically so you can kind of compare the shades in this palette. And you can see right off the bat that this has a little bit more of a blue tone in there, but we do have this beautiful mauve shade here. And this is kind of in between the two SUQQU shades. And then the last shade here is kind of a deeper, more of an eggplant. So although it's not the same palette, not exactly the same color story, I do think that, you know, unless you care about the duochrome aspect, it's a good substitution. And this one here is Dior Tutu. Now they have just released the new Dior Quince, and it looks kind of like they have a combination of Dior Tutu and what's the other one called? Plum Tool. So it hasn't actually released yet, but that's coming soon. And that could be an approximation, but you can see how similar this is to Violet Satinée, and it has some similarities with the SUQQU as well. Again, we don't have this color shift. This is going to be cooler in tone, has more blue in it. We don't get that kind of more vibrant pink shift there. The mauve shade, this has a little bit more brown in here, and again, it's kind of a cross between these two shades in the SUQQU. And yeah. And then this is the Chanel palette in 378 Douceur et Serenité. So we're going to just take a look at these two here on the bottom, the purple and the burgundy. All right, so let's see here. Here's a purple. Nope, it's too much of a red-based purple. And here's our burgundy. It's more vibrant, a little bit more pink than the SUQQU shades. So here we have Dior Tutu. These two are from the Chanel Douceur et Serenité. Here we have Cleona Turret, Sydney Grace, Mythical, and down here we have Tom Ford, Violet Satinée. All right, so let's move on to the blushes. Now this is a Pure Color blush in 140. Again, this is the one that I talked about in the last video. You can see we actually have some brown, peach, and blue kind of mixed in there. So let's go ahead. We're swatching this on the other arm. And let's kind of buff out a little bit of this. You can see that this is going to be kind of like a soft nude blush. There's a very little bit of, you know, shimmer in here, not glitter. There are actually no glitter pieces, but almost like a little bit of a pearlescence when you buff that in. You just get a little bit of kind of a satin vibe. So it's more of a satin matte. And yeah, I just think it's a really beautiful, warm nude shade. Now this one though, in 141, this is the one that I was most excited for. I mean, you can see you've got those beautiful mauve tones that kind of match up with the eyeshadow here. And you've got this soft, cool tone pink, and it has a little bit of a lavender in the pink. And then you've got the blue. So let's go ahead and see how this one looks. And it's beautiful. Now, this is the Pure Color blush formula. And as such, these are always meant to be kind of soft, light shades. You're not looking at things that are going to be super pigmented. It's supposed to give you a soft flush of color. Let's take a look at the demo for this. So in the demo, you can see I'm using the Rev 37 brush. This is undyed goat hair. It has a medium density, so you're really getting quite a good amount of pickup and application on here. So you can see in this demo, I'm doing 3 layers of it to really show you how far this can build. So you can definitely get very light, sheer, airy colors on really deep skin tones. I feel like this could actually work as a little bit of a subtle like highlighter or accent color. You can mix it in with things, but this is going to work best on, you know, light, fair, light to medium skin tones. Once you get to the deeper medium tones, I feel like it is going to have a little bit of a harder time showing up. But if you're looking for a light flush, I think it will still work. So overall, these blushes, again, they are meant to be very kind of light and a little bit of an ethereal look on the skin. And we have a 1-year shelf life. We have 6.4 grams. And just like the eyeshadow palette, this is a refillable palette. So you can definitely mix these around with, you know, some of the other blushes. Now, this does come with a blush brush in the actual palette. And yeah, overall, I think it is a really beautiful shade. So you kind of have this neutral pink, but there's a touch of lavender swirled in there. So it gives it a little bit of this ethereal shimmer, sort of like when the light hits it, sort of like, is there a little purple in there or is there not? So you're not really going to see purple on your skin, but you get a little bit of that cooler tone light reflection. So let's take a look at some comparisons. So this is the SUQQU Melting Powder Blush. This has been discontinued. This one here is shade 105, and I have to say this is, probably my favorite blush of the year. So I'm just gonna go ahead and swipe this one down here. The melting powder blushes are more pigmented. You can see that this is gonna be a little bit cooler, and this definitely has a bit more of that lavender vibe. This was intended to be used as a blush on lighter skin tones and a highlighter on deeper skin tones. Now, I do believe that they are working on an updated formula for these blushes. Unfortunately, it was only discontinued because of the unavailability of an ingredient needed for this. So I do expect something similar to come back at some point, but I don't have any further information than that at this point. This is the 103. This is actually more of a coral shade, but let's see. This also came out with the 105, and you can see how this is going to be a little bit warmer, more coral. This definitely looks more like a neutral pink compared to the melting powder blush. Just to round out the shades in that collection, this here is 104 that came out then. Let's go ahead and put that with the 140, and you can see this has a bit more orange in it. It's definitely not going to be quite as neutral. It doesn't have that tan vibe that you get with the 140 blush. And this is the melting powder blush in 02. And let's go ahead and take a look at this. You can see that is going to be a warmer tone pink. This is Pure Color Blush in 126. Let's take a look at this pinker side. And this is typically how the Pure Color blushes are, where you have kind of this gradient that goes to a highlighter. You can see this is going to be more vibrant. And it's just, it's not really warmer. It's more neutral though. And this is Pure Color Blush in 124. So this was kind of like a really soft, light, pale pink. Let's see how that compares. You can see this is actually, it's very light. This one's actually very, very light on the skin, but it's also significantly warmer. This is the Bobbi Brown Brightening Blush in Blushed Pink. So let's see how this one compares. And this is going to be a bit warmer as well. You can see that is a warmer pink for sure. And this is the new Chanel LeBlanc blush in Fantasy de Chanel. And I have to say, I really like this one. We've got a nice shimmer here. Let's go ahead and we'll put this one right here. You can see this is going to be shimmery, and it is going to be a bit warmer. Again, we've got a little bit more mauve in the SUQQU. And then this is Valentino in shade number 3. This is going to be, it has a little bit more of a purpley tone. It is more pigmented, but this is actually probably the closest shade to it. So you can see this has a little bit more like light reflection. It's a little bit more pigmented, but it is pretty close. Let me do those side by side. So let's do those on the hand. This is the Valentino in number 3. And here's the SUQQU in 141. So you can see the difference. Valentino's a little bit more pigmented. It's a little bit cooler, and it has obviously a different type of formula. This is more of like a gel powder formula. And yeah, it's a little bit pinker. All right, so we went over comparisons of everything as we were going through it, except the lipsticks. So just a couple quick ones here. This is shade 302 from the Givenchy lip balms. This is one of their new shades. You can see how that compares to the new SUQQU. This is gonna be lighter and more sheer on the lips. It's actually a tinted lip balm, essentially, but it is a similar color. We have more orange in the Givenchy, whereas we have more of that warmer golden brown in the SUQQU. And then this is a SUQQU Moisture Rich lipstick in 118. And so this is, a high shine lipstick, so it's not quite the same as a satin, but this is kind of the closest in formulation. It's more similar to something like a Chantecaille Lip Chic or Sisley Fido Rouge Shine. You can see that this is going to be warmer, has more of that high shine finish, and obviously it's more red. And this is a liquid lipstick from Cle de Peau in Cordy Line. I just wanted to see how this shade compared. You can see it's deeper, more mauve. And this is one of the Valentino nudes in 113. And let's go ahead, we'll put that one right here. It's definitely more brown, a bit deeper. And this one here is the Valentino in 142. Let's put that there. I think this one is the closest match that I have to the SUQQU 102. So I hope this has been helpful. I cannot speak highly enough about SUQQU and the quality of their brand. They are incredible. Their launches can be frustrating. You know, this time Selfridges had an issue when the products went up, you know, with the blushes and so forth. So, you know, there seemed to always be something that happens during one of their launches, which can be a bit frustrating. So for me, I like to pre-order from the Selfridges counter, the SUQQU counter at Selfridges, and I do that by sending them an email and telling them which products I want, and then I get a payment link later. So I'll put that email down below in the description box if you're interested, and I always announce when pre-orders have opened up for their collections. You can definitely contact them at any time for help or to place orders, but around the launch time, they typically have a free shipping promotion that, you know, Selfridges grants them. And there's still like a minimum, I forget what it is, something like 150 pounds perhaps, but you know, it's definitely worth it if you're buying a lot of SUQQU items. So that is the caveat though. You cannot purchase other Selfridges items to get that free shipping promotion and get to that minimum. It has to be all SUQQU. So that is something that was changed within like the last year or so. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know if you picked up any of these. There are still some of these items available at the retailers. I'll leave everything linked down below in the description box. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you very soon.